Welcome to the Silvertips Fireside Chat, presented by Anthony's Woodfire Grill. Here's your host, Casey Bryant.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Everett Silvertips Fireside Chat, hosted here at Anthony's Woodfire Grill. I'm your host, Casey Bryant. To everyone who is here in person at Anthony's Woodfire Grill, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us and for supporting one of our proud new partners of the Everett Silvertips organization. If you are home watching live on Facebook or on YouTube, thanks so much for tuning in and making the Silvertips a part of your weekend. If you are listening retroactively, wherever you happen to get your podcasts, on Spotify, Apple, wherever that may be, well, make sure you're tuning in at everettsilvertips.com. Follow along at WHL Silvertips on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out where these live performances are going to be. They're going to be on February 3rd and on March 3rd as well. Join in as part of the live performances that we've got going on here. We also want to give a special shout out to the facilitator of everything here tonight, our boy Trent DeVerter, who is manning the production here tonight. He is the head of the Snohomish Podcast Network, and the Snohomish Podcast Network is a growing lineup of podcasts from Snohomish County built around community, collaboration, and helping local shows grow. Discover your next favorite local podcast or learn how to join with your own show at snohomishpodcasts.com. So, this is exciting. I tell you what, this is something that has probably been the most requested thing since I started with the organization in 2021. People want to know when these live shows were going to come back because the organization used to do them at a sports bar in town. Then COVID hits and the sponsorship changes, and it's probably the most requested thing since I came to this organization is when are these live shows going to come back? So we're so thrilled to be able to bring them to you, and it couldn't be coming really at a better time because this is one of the most exciting Everett Silvertips seasons that we've had in quite a while. We'll get to our guest in just a little bit. Tarin Smith, the captain of the Everett Silvertips, will be joining us in a moment. Anaheim Ducks prospect, you won't want to miss it. But before we get to that, let's catch up on some of the headlines around this team because there have been some major news bulletins coming across the desk, namely the passing of the WHL trade deadline, that being the acquisitions of two defensemen, Luke Vluswick, a Philadelphia Flyers prospect, and Cade Rudick. Now, with these additions, there's two different ways of looking at the Everett Silvertips trade deadline. And I think that one is very optimistic. One may be a little bit more cynical than the other. Let's view it from both perspectives here. Because on the one hand, the Everett Silvertips added probably the two biggest names on the trade market in terms of defensemen. Cade Rudick is probably the best offensive defenseman that got moved. Luke Vluswick is a major add. He's an NHL draftee. He brings size. He's 6'5", 210 pounds. That's a major addition for this Silvertips group. But I understand that given the way that these last few playoff runs have gone for the Everett Silvertips, people wanted a marquee forward. They wanted to see the Tips go all in, push their chips to the center of the table, and there's anxiety when that doesn't happen, when it happens around the rest of the league. You know, the last time the Silvertips made a mid-season acquisition for what you would consider a premier forward is probably Zach Andrusiak with the Seattle Thunderbirds. Ironically, that's the last time they made that trade, where they give up two players, a second, a third, and a fourth for an overage forward. And that's admittedly a big deal and probably something that you're never going to see again between the Silvertips and Thunderbirds. You know, before that, you're looking at Garrett Pilon. Since then, the Silvertips have chosen to do a lot of their business in the offseason with Alex Swetlikoff or Teague Patton or Tyler McKenzie. These moves at the beginning of a season with Jackson Vaughn coming in, and you know, these little tweaks that you're making to a roster over the course of a season. So when you're looking at how the Tips built it, Shea Bush came in for a pick, Zach Shantz came in for a pick. They've chosen to make a lot of little deals that have cost a first here and a second here and a third here. And that is how this roster has been constructed. And I think that's wise because we've seen the general manager, Mike Frazier, say he doesn't want to mortgage the future, especially in an uncertain time, for a move that might not ultimately pan out. You know, Braden Coots and Radim Mertka, they're off limits. They're on the Seattle Thunderbirds. They're probably not dealing with the Everett Silvertips on a marquee trade market. Cameron Schmidt is not a Silvertip. Speaking from my perspective, speaking not from the organization's perspective, you know, they've looked more for Connor Dewar types, Zach Shantz's types, who are more two-way players, and that isn't what Cameron Schmidt is. So they're not looking for someone like that. So I think that they have built that team where you've got big names floating around the league, but the Silvertips had targeted who they wanted. GM Mike Frazier admitted that the Silvertips were in on a couple of big names around the league. One deal in particular is in place on the goal line with 10 minutes left, and the other team backs out, and that team isn't traded, and that player doesn't move. Teams back out. Like, they have their own deals that fall through. Players say no. Teams prioritize prospects differently. There's a lot of different players that were traded for each other. Look at the Cameron Schmidt trade, the Preston trade, the Cousins trade, the Halliburton trade. Those are big players, and the Tips didn't want to mess with their lineup, and I think that that's a good thing, especially when you consider when you add Vluswick and Rudig to this defensive core, which, by the way, is the only team in the Dub that has allowed fewer than 100 goals allowed. They're one of only 3 teams in the entire CHL at this point in the season that have still double-digit goals allowed. That was with 3 rookies and a forward on defense. Now you've been able to add in 2 guys with major experience in Vluswick and Rudig. Nolan Chasko can shift back up front. You're in a much better position now when it comes to reliability and experience on the back end. So now you wait for Shea Bush to return, which is something that GM Mike Frazier says will happen before the end of the regular season. Probably a similar timetable to Austin Roost last year, and that worked out pretty well. Austin Roost led the Silvertips in scoring in that playoff run. So, before we get to our guest, one Twitter question from user Cascadia Doug. How do you see Everett incorporating Luke, Cade, and Matthias Ueda into the defensive lines? Ueda was out with an upper body injury this past weekend in Prince George, but I think right there you've got a second pairing now after Smith and DuPont of Liskey and Rudig, who can whip the puck around, and then a shutdown pair of Ueda, who skates very well, and Vluswick, who can make plays at a distance. That's a really, really strong third pair that can lock things down and take some of the pressure off of the DuPonts and the Smiths in the waning minutes of a given game. So thank you for that question, Cascadia Doug. If you have questions for the Everett Silvertips podcast, be sure to tweet at WHL Silvertips or comment on our Facebook page. But for now, let's welcome in our guest. Our guest for this evening's live show is the captain of the Everett Silvertips and an Anaheim Ducks prospect. Everybody give it up for Tarin Smith coming into the show. Welcome in, Tarin. Tarin, thanks for coming in, buddy. I appreciate you having time for us tonight.
Yeah, you bet. Excited for this.
Tarin, I mean, this has got to be such an exciting period for this Silvertips team. You've got almost everybody back in the lineup. What is the feeling around this team for you as you're sitting atop the Western Conference right now?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's exciting. There's a lot of juice in our room, and, everyone comes to the rink happy and excited to be a part of our team, and everyone's excited, so.
This weekend in particular against Prince George, one of the stronger teams in the conference, it felt like a statement because you're against a really good team immediately after the trade deadline when they have been adding to. You get all your guys back from World Juniors. It's the first look at what this team is going to be in the coming months. So how did you like the way that your team took care of business in Prince George this weekend?
I thought it was awesome. I mean, that's a hard place to go into and come away with 4 points. And like you said, this is our team from now on. So I think going in there in the first 2 games after the deadline, playing like that and playing how we did against such a good team, I think that's huge for us and momentum going forward, especially with 6 games at home.
Absolutely. And that Sunday game in particular takes on particular importance given the physical tone, I'll call it. There's an outright line brawl that happens in the second period, which is pretty rare at this level. Did you notice a tone change in the game before that moment and after that moment?
Yeah, I don't know. That kind of makes it even more competitive. You just want to shove it in their face even more than you did before. When things get rough like that, it gets a little bit intense, and it almost gives you that little extra bite moving forward. So,
is it more challenging to do that kind of thing on the road too? Because when you're at home, the crowd is cheering for you. They're kind of propelling you on. It's an easy momentum boost. To do it on the road and in PG, a building where they usually play really well, that's got to be hard.
Yeah. I think it kind of goes both ways. Because at the same time, it's pretty cool to be the villain and to kind of get the boos when you're in an away rink like that. But, yeah, it definitely doesn't top the cowbells at home. So
it's the kind of game, too, where if Prince George wins that contest, because they scored 3 goals in the third period, you guys scored 3 goals, if they win that, they're thinking, what a great character win. We're off the schneid, losing streak done, we win at home. Instead, you guys are able to stomp on the gas pedal and kind of flip that script. So how do you think that your group was able to weather that storm in the third period to what wound up being a really strong character win for you guys instead?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's been huge for us. Like, I think we've showed that the 30-some games we've played before this is that we're a team that doesn't quit. Like, we've came back so many different times and not quit. And that's just a huge characteristic to our team that's going to be very pivotal moving into the playoffs and to the end of the regular season. So
that leads me right into my next question, because honestly, the way this team keeps coming back in the third period is almost unheard of. You guys are 5-3-1 when trailing at the end of 2 periods. For reference, last year in those same situations, you're 3-11-3. No other team in the WHL right now has a winning record when losing after 2. Not Edmonton, not Medhat, not PA. I guess my question is, how is that possible?
To be honest, I don't have a direct answer. Kind of like I said before, we're just a group who doesn't quit. Like, all those guys in there, like, none of us quit. Everyone wants to go to war for each other, and that's right till the buzzer rings. So
now, as the team has been building for this stretch run, let's look at the trade deadline, this last week. Because Steve Hamilton said that it was really crafty work that your team was able to bring in not 1 but 2 impact defensemen. Your forward group is bolstered by Nolan Chasko shifting back up there. How did you feel as a captain and as probably the most tasked defenseman on the team? How did you feel about the team's approach being able to add on the back end?
I think it's huge. I think it almost brings in like another layer of like satisfaction for our forwards, almost like a comfort level. Yeah, it's huge. Like Vloos, Rudy. I mean, this weekend we saw them both play unreal. Like, Rudy had 2 sick goals. Vloos is someone who nobody would ever want to play against, a big 6'5" D-man. Like, I don't know. Those 2 additions are huge, and they make our team so much better.
Speaking from a hockey perspective, when you have someone that's 6'5", that's able to take up so much space, we saw it a little bit with Eric Jameson in years past, where he's been the biggest defenseman. This guy is 3 inches taller than Eric. So how do you view the way that he plays defensively? And what is the impact that a player can have when you are so tall, taking up so much space?
Yeah. I don't like from the stands. It's hard to see stuff like this, but he's just someone who's so hard to play against. Like, when he goes into a corner with a guy, rides him out, like, makes it hard for that guy to play. Like, that guy is hesitant the rest of the game to go into the corner or go in front of the net with a guy like Vloos, and that like wears teams down. Like, throughout 3 periods, that'll wear teams down, and then when we get to 7-game series, like, that's going to get in guys' heads.
Meanwhile, you also add Cade Rudek. You mentioned the highlight reel caliber of his goals that he scored. Now, you've played against him in Portland. I imagine you played against him as well growing up in Saskatchewan, where he's playing for the Tisdale Trojans growing up. So is there anything that you noticed about Cade from a younger age, maybe having a little bit more time and more, experience playing against him as well?
Yeah. I think he's just gotten a little bit more mature and confident. He's always had the skill. Like, he's always been someone you keep your eye out playing against them, all that stuff. But I think he's just been a more mature player over the last 2-ish years that I've played him. And, yeah, so he's came a long way.
Finally, let's touch on what Nolan Chasko has been able to accomplish these last couple of months, because you talk about things that might not be easy to notice or things that are going under the radar. The job that he did on the back end is unbelievable. Just because I had asked Nolan, when was the last time you ever played defense? He said, not since U8, if ever.
Yeah.
So watching him as a defenseman, what was it like trying to help him along and get him in the right position so that he can learn a completely new position on the fly?
Yeah. It was fun. Like, watching, I don't know how he did it. Like, people do not understand how impressive that was. For him to be able to come back there and never play the position and do it at the caliber he did and play the amount of minutes he did.
Absolutely.
So, like, it was so much fun, like, working with him, like, in practices. Like, he would ask questions. Like, he wanted to be a better D-man, even though he's not a D-man. And, like, I can't give enough credit to that guy. Like, that just shows what kind of person he is and how much, like, how he'll go to war for every guy in the team. Like, that's not something you see ever. So for him to be able to do that and do it well is so impressive.
Is there ever a situation where you would want to be a forward, maybe flip the script for a change?
I mean, I would, but I wouldn't be able to be good at it.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. I think you've got the hands for it. You've shown that you can score down close, so I don't know.
I would have no idea where to go. I'd be all over the place.
So when you bring in guys like Luke and like Cade, where you know they're going to be kind of in your neck of the woods. They're going to be in your contingent on the back end. Is there anything that you have to do as a captain to welcome them into the room? Because this is a stressful week. So how do you try to reach out and bring guys in?
Yeah, 100%. I think kind of just being like their mentor almost. I know like coming into a team this 30 games into the year, like it's not going to be easy. Like meeting all the new guys, learning how things are in the room, what we do in the rink, like stuff like that. So just kind of like show those guys the ways the next couple weeks, kind of be their guy who they can reach out to whenever they need anything, whether it's at the rink, away from the rink, anything like that. I think that's where I should be there the most for them, is kind of be their guide and the guy that they go to for questions. So
a common sentiment last year, whenever any of the defensemen on this team was asked, whether it was Eric Jameson, Caden Hamill, DuPont, whenever you were asked about the defensive core, the response was always the same. We've got something special here. You guys have built to where it must feel very similar now that you're going forward. You're like, well, you must look around and think this is something special here.
100%. Like the group that we have, I do see similarities to last year, and like we all got to know each other for a whole nother year. And I don't know, I just think that us 7 have something really going for us.
Was that subtle? You're doing the us
I did not mean to do that.
Was that for Jackson Vaughn there? You know that. Let's talk about Anaheim now, because you were drafted by the Ducks, and draft day was such a whirlwind, I'm sure. It was funny being there alongside with you and with Julius and kind of walking through with you in the car wash that you're ushered through of pictures and sign this and do that. Yeah. What was really cool from my perspective is that the both of you were asking about each other the whole time. When I was walking through with Julius, taken in the second round, the whole time, anytime he was done with something, he would come over to me and say, hey, is Tarin gone yet? Has he gone yet? And when you went through the car, I don't even know if you remember this, pretty much anytime you stopped, you were like, I can't believe Julius went to Seattle. That's so cool. He's going to love staying here. That's so cool. Like, when you were able to get back with Julius, what do you remember that first interaction being like of, man, we made it?
I don't know, just like utter excitement. Almost like at a loss for words. Like that whole day, it's almost a blur now, but I just remember being so excited for him. And like, yeah, I don't know, it was kind of a blur.
Having gone there for a couple of training camps now, is there anything particular about SoCal life that gels with Tarin Smith? Are you going surfing? Are you going to Angels games? What about Anaheim or San Diego has you excited?
I mean, what do you not like? Southern California, like the weather, the beaches, it's all unreal. I'm gonna definitely have to get a little bit used to that because I haven't been around that a ton, but it's not gonna be tough to get used to. It won't be tough.
You're a long way from home in Saskatchewan, so that transition is gonna be easy for you then. Exactly. So going into that draft year too, I'll throw it back to 22-23 because in that season you're shelved for most of it. You only play in the 8 games, and you're going through a really long injury recovery. I remember talking with Austin Roos last year when he's going through his surgery recovery. He felt alone a lot, and it was really hard on him to stay focused, and that's after he's drafted and after he's signed. For someone like you going through that recovery at the time where you're still in pursuit of getting drafted and signed, how were you able to persevere through that, and how did that shape your approach going into that next year?
It was tough. I mean, like, knowing that you're done for the rest of the season, and especially being 16 the way I was, like, it was hard. And like Roosty said about feeling alone, like, that stuff was so tough. But at the same time, I feel like being taken away from hockey for that long kind of it kind of opened up my It kind of opened up my perspective. Like, hockey being taken away from you, it made me think like, wow, like I'm almost taking this for granted. And it kind of like flipped my perspective on stuff. So at the same time, as hard as it was, I think part of that was a good thing for me, just to like show me what it's like to not have hockey. And it showed me like how much I want hockey to be my life and the rest of my life. So like almost like more motivation. So
that's real. You got to be well-rounded too, like just to make it through life.
Exactly.
Because you have so much away from the rink that's going to have to carry you through. That's real.
100%.
So I'll ask you about farm life now, because we talked about how far away it is from Saskatchewan. What's your least favorite farm chore that you have to do with your mom and dad?
Probably shoveling out rotten grain bins. It is. People probably have no idea what that is, but sometimes, well, not sometimes, at the end, whenever grain has been like pooling up in a silo, people would probably,
Okay, yeah.
you have to dig out the rotten grain at the bottom, and there's like mice in there eating it, and it smells so bad, you step in there, you want to throw up. And it's like, if it's in the summer, it's probably plus 45 Celsius inside that grain bin, and it's, yeah, I don't even want to talk about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Favorite road city to go to and why?
I really enjoyed playing in Edmonton last year.
Yeah.
It's closer to home, so I definitely have some family that come out to watch. It's a cool city. We spend quite a bit of time downtown around there, around Ice District, I think it's called there. And like the rink is so cool. It's everything about that city I enjoy.
When we were in Prince Albert, you had pretty much the entire population of Porcupine playing there. How surreal was that to see so many people rocking Smith jerseys and so many people from your hometown looking up to you?
It was awesome. Like, I have so much support from friends and family back home in Porcupine. Like, it means the world to me. And to finish that game and to walk out into the lobby and see countless people from back home coming out to support, like, it means so much.
That's so cool. That's got to be one of your favorite memories that you've had.
100%. Like, I'll look back on that photo in years' times, and it'll always bring a smile to me. So,
if you had to build out an all-time Silvertip lineup of teammates that you've had, you get 3 forwards, a D partner, and a goalie. Walk me through it. What are the choices?
Yeah. All right. I'll go Jules, Julius Mietinen at center.
Okay. Good choice.
I'll go Ben Hemmerling on the right wing. Kind of bring that speed.
Yeah.
And then left wing. Gosh.
Got a lot of options here.
Serious. How about I'll go to my D partner now. I'll come back to left wing. I'll go Dupes on D.
Okay.
He's been awesome to play with this year.
Valid.
And then in net I'll go Braden Holt.
Okay.
Great dude, great goalie. And then on the left wing, I think we just got to go with Matthias Van Hanen.
Yeah,
plays so well with Jules.
Keep the Finnish connection together.
Exactly.
No Jackson Berezowski making the crack there. There's a lot of tough cuts to be made.
It's so hard. That's tough.
Fair enough. I'll get to a couple of questions that were asked to us from social media as well, which, by the way, thank you for everyone who tuned in and turned in some questions ahead of time. Let's go to a question from Twitter from Nathan Ryder. Shout out Nathan, who's one of the best newspaper writers covering the league. He asked, what's your favorite memory when you were growing up in Porcupine?
Gosh, probably just like outdoorsy stuff with my buddies, like hunting, stuff like that with my friends. That's stuff that I'll never forget. Driving around on quads, ATVs, like snowmobiling, all that stuff.
From Facebook, from user Chris Guthrie, he wants to know, what is your favorite make of tractor?
I talked about this a little bit with my mom. Actually, I would say the combine, the John Deere X9, those things, the technology in those things, I could never understand it, but I think it's so cool what they're kind of bringing to farming now. It's almost like a spaceship. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what you're talking to a pampered city boy here. I have no frame of reference for anything. From Twitter, we have a question from Shauna here at TBirdsFan2889. Change that username, Shauna. What are we doing? Describe some of your teammates in one word. I'll give you a teammate, and you describe in one word. Landon DuPont.
Exceptional.
Fair enough. Breck Liskey.
Loud.
Julius Mietinen.
Impulsive.
Okay. Matthias Van Hanen.
Quiet.
That's a valid answer. That's a very valid answer. Finally, Jackson Pisani.
Also quiet.
Fair. All right. Like that. From Facebook, we have a question from Angela Thomas. She asks, as captain this year, how has your leadership changed your thought process and your actions when you're on the ice? You've been more physical, but is that the only change? By the way, you've been an absolute pleasure to watch, and thank you for all the blood, sweat, and tears. So thank you, Angela.
Thank you. I kind of feel like, I wouldn't say changed. I feel like I kind of still want to be myself, but you do kind of look at stuff a different way. Like you almost need to drive the bus in some sort of sense. So like coming to the rink every day and like being that guy who like pushes the pace in practice and it's like kind of making sure like guys are getting better and like stuff like that. And then at the same time, I think being a captain, a huge part of being a captain is like being the guy that anyone can go to about anything. Like that's huge for me. Like when I was younger, a guy like Jackson Berezowski, I was 16 when he was here. He was an unbelievable captain, not just because the way he was on the ice, but off the ice. Like I could go talk to that guy about anything, like you name it. And I think that's the part that stuck out to me most about him. So that's kind of like influenced me in how the way that I want to be a leader on our team. So
Jackson always struck me as one of the most down-to-earth guys.
Exactly.
He was always someone that just went about his business real quiet. I think that's probably quintessential of a Sask guy.
Yeah.
But like you can, it's the reason why he's got a long pro career now. That he just puts his head down and he grinds. I think it's a great guy to emulate. From Facebook, a question from Bill Helm: to go all the way, what do the Silvertips need to do this year? What have you learned from previous playoff runs that maybe didn't go as far as you wanted that you're transferring into this season?
Yeah. This has kind of been a little bit of a motto in our dressing room, but it's like we need to be hard. Like we need to be a hard team to play against. We've kind of used like the hammer as a little bit of a reference, but like the hardest thing to do in playoffs is play a team day in and day out that is hard and like hits, like forechecks, like stuff like that. So I think going into playoffs is we are going to have to be a team that is going to be hard to play against because that wears teams down. So
perfectly valid. From Facebook, we have a question from Vanessa Smith, and you might have already answered it. Which Silvertip would you say you have learned from the most in your 4 years with the team?
Yeah. Jackson Berezowski is the one I said before, but another one is Olin Zellweger. I got to spend a little bit of time with him when I was 15, and then he was here till the trade deadline when I was 16. And no one works like that guy. Like that guy shows you what work ethic is and shows you what it takes to get to the next level. And that coming in here when I was 15, that kind of opened up my eyes. Like this is what it's going to take. Like watching that guy and learning from him. So that's another guy who I learned a lot from.
Do you remember how long he would be on the Super Deeker for back there?
It was insane. I remember one day someone actually beat him. And he was on that thing for like 4 extra hours. Finally beats it, drops his stick, and it's just like, boom, chew on that one. Yeah, I won't forget that.
That sounds about right. He was the most hyper-competitive guy
yeah.
ever. A question from Harry Bryant. Hi, Dad. His question for you is, what is your relationship with your billet family like?
It's great. It's a home away from home, right? Like, you spend a lot of time with them. They're great people. So, I don't know. Like,
have you had the same billet for the entire time?
I've kind of been all over the place. Stuff's happened, so.
Yeah. So, but I think it's great that you have such a welcoming environment. Our billets are so fantastic, taking care of our guys, making sure they're prepared, making sure they're responsible. So shout out to Janet and Pat and Janet who coordinate all of it. A couple clicks. They do such an awesome job for the organization. Finally, we have a question here from Facebook, Grant Rich. If the team bus got stuck overnight and you had to pick one teammate to survive with and one teammate that you absolutely would not trust, who are you choosing and why?
To survive with, I'm probably going to pick Nolan Chasko. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
He would kind of guide the way, I feel like.
Yeah.
For some reason, he strikes me as someone who would be able to survive in an outdoorsy situation like that. And then 100% would not want to be with Jesse Heslop.
What's wrong with Jesse?
Because he would eat all the food. He loves to snack. And I kind of see him being overwhelmed and almost panicking in that situation. And that's not what you need, so.
Tarin, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything that you would like to say directly to Silvertip Country as we get ready for the stretch run here?
Thank you, Tip fans. You guys have been unreal. You guys are an absolute pleasure to play in front of, and let's go Tips.
Tarin, thank you so much. Couple of clicks and a round of applause here for Tarin Smith here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Silvertips Fireside Chat. You can catch all of these episodes. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at WHL Silvertips. Check out iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. A special thanks to the Snohomish Podcast Network. Thanks to Trent DeVerter, our producer. Thanks to Lindsey McClellan and Callie Cullison for helping us set up and operate the cameras here today. And, of course, a special thanks to Anthony's Woodfire Grill for having us in their restaurant here tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Casey Bryant. Have a good night.
That was way better than I thought.
Yeah, that was good.
I thought I was going to choke up way more than that.
That was good. Good job.
I'll do my rounds now.
Yeah.